So listen, here's the deal. This is what we should do. You should get off the train with me here in Vienna and come check out the town.
What?
Welcome back to the Roundtable. I am Nemo, and Infinity Train has its fair share of mystery. Whether it's the number on Tulip's hand, the origin of the train, or who the mysterious conductor is, there is no shortage of unanswered questions on this crazy train. And although we see Tulip's journey come to an end, a satisfying conclusion where she learns a lesson and goes home to her family, there are tons of loose plot threads and questions left unanswered. One of the biggest mysteries of the show being the train itself. So today we're going to take a look at everything we know and try to break down what exactly this crazy Infinity Train really is. Real quick before we begin the video, I just want to issue a quick spoiler warning for pretty much all of Infinity Train. If you have not seen this incredible series, just drop everything you're doing right now and go watch it. Alright, I think that's it. Let's start the video. First thing to note is that the train appears to exist in its own separate dimension. That's right, I have no idea where this place is. It is only referred to by fans as the desert. It seems to be this endless expanse of cracked desert ground, ugly black trees, purple mountains. It seems as though the only safe haven in this terrifying world is the train itself, which seemingly runs forever. I'm really glad they answered this question in the very first episode, which is why doesn't Tulip just get off the train? Because when she attempts to do this, she's met with quicksand and terrifying cockroach dog monsters. Not a fun place to be. I'd rather be in the ball pit car, honestly. In the pilot, the train appeared to be much smaller, each train car being only a little bit bigger than Tulip herself. However, in the full series, the train has changed a lot and is a lot more terrifying. Owen Dennis cited Chinese brutalist architecture as an influence for the design of the train, which you can totally see here. The train looks totally dystopian and all science fiction-y. It's perfect. In the original version, the trains had windows and they looked sort of more like a normal train, but in the show, they look more similar to like unmarked freight cars or like shipping containers. Owen Dennis confirmed in the same AMA that the train is about 5 stories tall, which is huge. As for what's inside each car, well, that can vary. I've done a lot of digging and there appears to be no rhyme or reason here. Sometimes trains can be the actual size of the train car and just be a straight line all the way through, like the grid car. Other times they contain whole entire worlds like Horginia. We've seen multiple times whole complex civilizations existing inside of these train cars, like the underwater world of Randall's. Sometimes the cars are just filled with jelly beans. The further we go into the series, the more we learn about the creation of these cars. We find that they're all created at the very front of the car at the engine. According to the cat, the train is never finished, so these cars are constantly being made, which I'm sure is why the train seems infinite. I'm not sure if it's strictly by definition infinite, but it might as well be with how many train cars there are. And later in the series, we find out what is in a car is dictated by these orbs. Each orb stands for a different object or thing, and they slide into little square grids in the car. It's really interesting and well thought out. It really adds a lot of depth to the car and to the technological explanation behind the show. So for instance, if you put one orb in, a bunch of trash cans will appear, but if you take it out, then they won't have any more trash cans. I can only imagine how complicated a place like Horginia is, but it's scary because it almost implies that everything in the car is fake, including Atticus. It seems as though everything on the train is technically artificial, although that doesn't explain things like the cat or the tapes or the chrome car, which had an actual effect on Tulip. If you didn't notice, in one of the last scenes of the season when Tulip is home, she still does not have a reflection, a callback to when her reflection left the mirror world and became her own person. This raises so many questions. Is this car a actual portal to the mirror world? Is this car the only time mirror people can communicate? But in that sense, why is there a whole mirror police? Are the orbs just making the mirror world? Are the orbs making a portal to the mirror world? If you took out an orb, would mirror Tulip disappear and a reflection come back? This is the part I have no idea on. We're gonna have to theorize a little bit here. But even if the train car and these orbs are creating artificial personalities, they're still personalities, and in a way they're still living. So I don't think Atticus is just some sort of computer simulation. I think he's his own person, and he's able to leave his car and go wherever he wants, so he seems to be self-sufficient. But the question still arises, what if somebody went back to the Horginia car and took out a Corgi orb? At that point it just gets super trippy. It gets even weirder when you think about logistics of the train. In the AMA that I discussed earlier, Owen Dennis said that Tulip finds food and water throughout the train. That's how she survives. They just don't show it because it's not important to the story. Okay, that's totally cool, but are the orbs creating that food? Is that food real even if the orbs create it? In that sense, are the orbs actually like God? Can they just create anything and have it be 100% real? Because if the food she was eating was artificial, then it wouldn't be able to sustain her, right? Same with the water. So even though the orbs are creating what's on the train, I don't think they're necessarily creating fake artificial things. But what this means more than anything else is that the train is a machine. It's not magical. The series does a very good job of showing that. Even though Owen refers to it as a magical train in the AMA, I'm sure he's just kind of being being facetious, because everything about this train is mechanical, and it can be, in a way, sort of hacked. Tulip is able to completely hijack the ball pit car and drive it to the engine of the train. And we also see the conductor moving train cars around all the time for whatever nefarious deed she's doing that day. But let's talk about Amelia for a second, because that part's really interesting too. This all happens off screen and before the series even starts, but Amelia managed to make it to the engine of the train. I don't know if she used her technical knowledge to do that, like Tulip ended up doing, or if she just stumbled upon it by traveling so far. I mean, her number was huge. But despite this, she was able to completely take over the train pretty much easily. It's revealed in the series that 1-1 is actually the conductor of the train. And it seemed like Amelia was able to basically just pull out 1-1. And that's really all it took to take over the train. Because at the end of the day, there's not a lot in the engine car. Besides like a giant wall of dials and a sick gaming PC setup that I'm pretty sure she set up herself, the engine is not that complicated. This makes the train look like it's not this big, complicated thing, more just this giant untamable beast that's constantly moving. There's not some greater power controlling the train, there's not some huge security system, it seems. I mean, the stewardess might have been security, but at the end of the day, if she was, she did a pretty bad job of it because Amelia still got complete control of the train. Part of me wonders if Amelia built the stewardess, though at the end of the day, when 1-1 is back in his mother, the command console, and back in control of the train Wheatley style, the stewardess listens to him after he mimics the same little buzz tone that Amelia had been doing the whole series to control the stewardess. Another interesting thing is how they make the train cars, because this harkens back to the whole the train is just a machine thing. We see Amelia coding constantly when she's trying to make the train of her old life, meaning that at the end of the day, this really all is just computer stuff. In order to create a train car, you have to code one. This almost makes me think that the train is some sort of alien technology or some sort of futuristic technology. But again, we have no answers in that department, so it's just theory and speculation. But as we can tell by the unfinished car, it is heckin' hard to make a train car. This is not some easy little Control-Alt-Delete stuff, okay? This is beyond rocket science, it seems. So if trains can just be coded and the train is just a machine, it's only fitting that 1-1 is the conductor. 1-1 is the mind of the train. Without 1-1, without the train's conductor, it's just this piece of machinery trucking onwards forever with the ability to create infinite worlds. But when you put 1-1 in the center of it, you give it a mind, you give it a reason, and you give it a purpose. 1-1 is extremely powerful, as we've seen throughout the series, and deep down his coding wants him to build trains and fix cars that he thinks are broken, as we can see in the unfinished car. It's almost fitting that his mind is so simplistic, being just two simple emotions, because a simple mind at the head of the train could create the most train cars probably at the fastest speed, without worrying about morality or any of that deep thinking stuff that would stop you from making a beach car. So that's basically what the train is a giant piece of machinery with 1-1 at the center of it, creating infinite worlds forever.
You're in kind of a bad place right now.
Let's talk about the purpose of the train. The purpose of the train, it seems, is to teach lost people lessons. If they don't learn the lesson, they can never leave and go back to their home world. As we can see by the finale, there's definitely a lot of passengers on the train. Now, I don't think that they were purposely being kept from Tulip. I just think the train is so big that they never came across each other. That totally makes sense. She only went through about 40 cars anyways. But regardless, when your lesson is learned, you actually get to leave the train, a process that Tulip witnessed in episode 1, assuming that the person was actually being killed. And who can blame her? Like, that was dramatic as heck. But in reality, that person just learned their lesson and they were finally able to go home. The train seems to appear to people in the physical world when they are at their lowest point. For instance, Tulip was completely done with her parents and upset with how her life was going and was ready to run away to a gaming camp that was extremely dangerous to get to, all on her own with just a backpack. In Amelia's case, the only other case we see of a train picking somebody up, it looks as though the train has the power to impact the physical world, completely erasing the roof of her college, only for her to go up and investigate. However, it's not clear what Amelia was on her way to do when the train came to her. She went from not wanting to leave the house and grieving to being on some weird mission where she completely covered herself up, going back to the old college where she fell in love with Ulrich. Maybe she too was on her way to do something completely drastic and irresponsible that could have led to her death. That seems to be when the train finds you, offers you something that you want, and gets you to climb on board. I don't think there would be an age limit, although Tulip looks to be the youngest on that list of people. You get off the train by learning a lesson, and that's dictated by your number going up or down. When it reaches 0, that's the key that unlocks the door. This is all according to 1-1, who's the gosh dang conductor, so he would know what he's talking about. We see some passengers with numbers extremely high, some sort of lower, but it's assumed that none of them know what the numbers mean, because at the end of the day, the train is a test. The train is able to literally change the physical world, okay? We're playing with some god level stuff here. Maybe we're never gonna fully know who created the train, because at the end of the day, the only important part is the journey the train takes you on. There's so many interesting and curious things about the train that I barely even touched on, like how the train that appears in the physical world looks completely different than the train you end up on. I don't know what's going on there, but it's important to note at the end of the day that the train coincides with real world logic. The time that passes on the train is the exact same amount of time that it passes in the real world. On top of that, these train cars that contain whole worlds are still stuck to the limits of the train car. As we can see from the unfinished train, if you dig down deep enough, you just hit the bottom of the train car and basically cut a hole in the world. The sky is completely capable of disappearing, only to reveal the actual sky above it. The train is not magic, it's just extremely technologically advanced. Again, everything is coded, but I think it's easier if you look at the train as not an object or a thing, but an experience. There's a reason why 1-1 refused to make a train for Amelia. That's not how the train works. However this train came to be, whoever's running it or is in charge of it, the ultimate goal of it is to teach people lessons about themselves. And it seemed lessons about change. Tulip and Amelia both went through a major life change that really screwed them up when the train found them. I wouldn't be surprised if the train came to other people with different problems, but right now it looks like it comes to people who are going through a period of change and teaches them how to cope with it. Season 1 of Infinity Train may not have given us all of the answers on what this train is or how it works, but it gave us just enough to pique our interest and keep us theorizing, and that's the best case scenario in my opinion. Hopefully we find more out about this train in season 2, but as for right now, it's still the most interesting part of the show and currently my favorite thing to theorize about. I hope you enjoyed this little rundown of everything we know about the train, and I hope I helped explain it a little bit better for you if you were confused, but let's be honest, we're all just super confused together. But as always, I want to know what you guys think about all of this. Are you confused by the train? Are you not? Let us know in those comments down below, or tweet to us at Roundtable Vids or me at @StretcherNemo. If you want to consider helping out the Roundtable, you can support us on Patreon or become a member of the channel and get exclusive access to scripts and avatars. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share it, and subscribe to the Roundtable for more incredible cartoon content, guys. I'm Nemo. This is an Infinity Train video, and I will see you next time. Peace.